Welcome back. This is Wisconsin Shoe Guy, and today we're going to have a relatively long video going through some of the tier 2 shoes and some of the things that I think make them good, unique, etc. Stand back because here we go. It's going to be a lot of fun. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Wisconsin Shoe Guy, and our channel we talk about men's dress wear. It's all about footwear, and we talk about unboxing videos, general shoe knowledge, helping you understand the industry and what's happening with your shoes. We look at shoes critically to determine whether or not they're worth the price that they charge. We compare shoe to shoe to understand which one is the best of the same category, and then I interview experts in the field to get their take as well. As we look at tier 2s and we're really jumping into the hand welted versus the Goodyear welted shoes, I think it's important to have a few brands up here to look at from each of these perspectives. So the first one we're going to look at, this is a Y by Yosal by Antonio Mecariello. So as we start looking at the hand welted versus Goodyear welted, I wanted to put up a few shoes here to actually talk about the differences in quality that you'll see between all of these. So we're going to start with a Mecariello here, a Cleverly, Crockett and Jones hand grade, an October 10th, an Enzo Bonifay, and a Vass. Now these are 6 very, very different brands. But they all have something in common. These are all exceptionally high quality shoes. Now, which ones are hand welted? Which ones are Goodyear welted? Does it matter? Does it mean that they have things like fiddleback waists? Does it mean they have things like toe plates? Does it mean they have things like Triumph toe plates? No, that has nothing to do with any of it. Are they blind stitched? You know what? They're all blind stitched. So whether it's hand welted really doesn't have anything to do with what the sole looks like. It really doesn't have anything to do with what the top of the welt looks like. It has to do with the inside of the shoe. And when you're looking at the inside of the shoe, you can't really see it. But it's about this strip of gemming that is glued to the underneath the insole, that the welt that holds the sole to the shoe is sewn into before it's sewn into the and so that the insole is attached, and the insole and the upper are attached to the sole. That's really what this is about. And so which one uses gemming? It's Goodyear welted. And this Mecariello, Cleverly, and Crockett and Jones are Goodyear welted shoes. If you look at the finishing on these, the finishing on these is absolutely first rate. You look at the soles, absolutely first rate. These have fiddleback waists, they have nails, or they have toe plates, and they're just beautiful, exceptionally crafted shoes with beautiful leather, all of them. And they're all Goodyear welted. Now these are hand welted. This happens to have a fiddleback waist. It happens to have a toe plate. It happens to have a mixture of suede and leather. Some very, very beautiful hand stitching across the apron there. But it's hand welted too. This is an Enzo Bonifay. It has a toe plate that was put on afterwards, so this is not from the factory. This has a custom patina done after the factory, and is 100% hand welted. This was a burgundy Yoko calf when I bought it, and I didn't even take delivery of it. I had it sent directly to Mr. Renworks, and he did this gorgeous patina. This is a Vass shoe, okay? Now this actually is a closed channel. They hammer the channel closed, but this has a toe plate, also put on by Mr. Renworks, also a custom patina, done by Mr. Renworks. Just a beautiful hand-welted shoe. Now, Vass has a great reputation for quality. These have JR soles, but they don't all have JR soles. But look at this sole. It's a beautiful sole. Look at this sole. It's gorgeous. There's nothing wrong with any of these shoes. The only difference is how they're constructed. Now, the tension that you can put on with a machine and a tension that you can put on by hand are a little different. That's true. So it is possible that it is easier to break in a pair of hand welted shoes. But that hasn't been my experience. My experience has been sometimes they're harder to break in. Sometimes they're easier to break in. It has more to do, in my opinion, with the upper than the sole, than the welt. That doesn't really make that big a difference to me. So the shoe makers will tell you that sometimes they do it by hand because they want to spend that extra time crafting the shoe. Some of these makers, Mecariello does hand welted too, but not all the time. This is an Argentum series, and Argentum series has a hand welted version, and it has a Goodyear welted version. Now, there's a lot of handwork that goes into this, right? But the bottom line is there's gemming that's glued to the insole that is then sewn to the welt, which is then used to attach the rest of the shoe, or to the sole. So, it's something to keep in mind as you're looking at shoes, and as you pay more for them. It does not necessarily mean that they're more expensive. I have tier 1 shoes that are Goodyear welted, and there's nothing wrong with that. So anyway, just a small discussion, pretty quick, on the difference between them and some fabulous examples of some very, very high-end shoes that are in the tier 2 bracket because they cost less than $850. And as we get through the video today, we'll talk about why they're in the tier 2 and why they're such great shoes. So, what is a tier 2 shoe? I needed to have some semblance of order as I looked at this. I'm kind of a quantitative guy in my head. So I actually broke it down by price. Right? Now, I want to be clear. There are some tier 2 shoes that really give tier 1 shoes a run for their money in terms of quality features. Not all. Okay, there are a couple of really, really large main brands that are in here that are in the tier 2 space that are probably not ones that are going to give them a run for their money. Some of these I tried to exclude, like special leathers and things like that, and tried to look at the list price of the shoe. And some shoe brands have huge ranges of shoes. One brand I chose only to have one range. This particular brand has 7 ranges of shoes, so I thought that was important. But as we look at this, it's an imperfect science. Some of these you're going to look at and say that really firmly belongs in tier 3 or tier 4. Others you're going to say, hey, wait a second, why isn't that in a tier 1? So it's an imperfect science, but I feel like this is a good place to start and certainly something that's worthy of discussion. So we start off and we're really looking at shoes that are made in the USA. And we're going to go around the world and really look at it in terms of where we think that the shoes themselves come from, a little bit about the style, and then we'll really talk a little bit about what we feel firmly cements the brand in this particular category as we go. So with that, let's get started. Shoes in the USA. So the one brand from the USA that really fits into this criteria, again, this is between $500 and $850, is Alden. Now, Aldens rarely go on sale. There are probably not a lot of dealers out there. In my experience, there are 2 shops that are company owned. There's Alden of San Francisco and there's Alden of Washington, D.C. And then there's half a dozen or a dozen, something like that, dealers that deal exclusively in Alden in the U.S. Now, there are others internationally, but for the main part, that's what I'm thinking is in their local market. So they make they are a factory-made shoe. They're made in Massachusetts, and they're nice shoes. They're very nice shoes. Right? They start at around $550, and they go up. again, I'm trying not to focus on the shell cordovan, because I would view that like alligator, right? I mean, it can go crazy. So I'm just staying, generally speaking, the range is going to be from about $550 to about $650, okay? Without the special material. So I have two. I have this tanker boot. It is a Loden suede, and it is a hand, this is a hand-stitched apron. And it is, everything else on it, of course, is machine stitched. It has brass eyelets and speed hooks, and overall the quality of this is very nice. You know, there are some, you know, factory imperfections. The welt's not perfect. It's got, you know, it had some loose threads here and there. There's some pieces that I question whether or not they're 100% symmetrical, but that's shoes, right? They're usually imperfect. From a stitch density perspective, these are okay. You know, I'm looking at them compared to the shoes, and the shoe stitch density is about twice as dense as the boots. So that's always interesting to look at that. But it, you know, it's a good boot. I'm not a super fan of the way Alden does the commando sole. I would have preferred to have like an Nishidan sole on it, but you know, this is a nice sole, and you know, it certainly the heel provides a tremendous amount of traction, and overall I feel pretty happy with it. The shoe, it's a longboat, or excuse me, a gunboat, not a longboat. This is the Alden 979, and the Alden vernacular, the number translates to the style and color. I also have a shell cordovan one, which is not here because that's part of my shell collection. But you know, both of these have a split reverse welt or a storm welt. Alden does a really nice job on them. You can see they have the pre-stitching done in the storm welts, which is visible, which it isn't always. Sometimes it's hidden. And you know, the quality of the leather is very good. You know, you get a lot, you get some micro creasing, but not terrible bad. And you get a shoe that lasts a long time. I know guys who have Aldens that are 50 years old, and that they're still in good shape. Soles. This is a interesting. It's kind of like a butyl finish to the sole, and it's so it's got some water resistance to it, and just a great solid feel to the sole. Their midsoles on Aldens are very thick. You know, you compare that to an Allen Edmonds, the midsoles are pretty thin. And overall, the lining material, everything on it is just a very good, classic, you know, strong shoe. Now, from a manufacturing and quality standpoint, is it firmly in tier 2, where you have brands, you know, like Crockett and Jones, you've got Enzo Benafe, some hand-welted shoes? I don't know. I mean, I think it's debatable. I think a lot of people would say yes. So, you know, from a made in the USA, there are a lot of other brands that are made in the USA. Not a lot, but a few really good quality brands, and they do not fit in this price category. So I am leaving them for another video. So the next maker we're going to look at is October 10th. Now, I got turned on to October 10th, which are here, through a collaboration that they did with Sons of Henry, or that they're currently doing with Sons of Henry, where he's basically their distribution outlet for the West. And they make pretty nice shoes. There's a lot of rumors as to the factory and whether it's shared with Yosol and some other folks, and it's hard to get any validity to that. I've asked specifically, and I've been told no. so I have to take it at face value. And I have a pair of Yosol actually coming. They're on order, but they're not done yet. So you know, I decided to press on with the video without them. But I do have the slide for them in the list as well. There are a number of shoemakers in China. Some of them very, very high end, like Acme. And then you have October 10th. You have Jim Jun. You have Yosol. among others, right? I mean, there's probably hundreds, but you know, I'm just getting into this and starting to see a few. Now, there's also some shoemakers that are in what would be tier 3, tier 4. The one that comes to mind, probably the most famous Chinese-made brand. It's not a Chinese company. It's Meermin HOK. They're made in Shanghai, and they of course they make nice shoes. They make a lot of shoes, but they make nice shoes, both in you know, machine welted, Goodyear welted varieties and hand welted varieties as well. So speaking of just this brand, October 10th, they come with some really fantastic soles. They have a good fiddleback waist. They have a beautiful blind stitch sole. These are hand welted, and they are made to order. So you can choose to have different pieces done. I chose that I wanted to have a suede apron on these, and this is a Janus suede mixed with this really beautiful thick calf, and you know, dark brown and dark brown. I thought that was kind of a classic look. St. Crispin's has a shoe that they call the Silent Spectator, and I have to admit that inspired me on these, and I do like the way they came out. You have narrow heels, just a classic design. They put the toe plates on for me as well, and they do a nice job. I would rate the quality of these probably a step below, and I know that that's debatable. A lot of people will yell at me about this, but I'm going to say it's maybe a step below Enzo Bonifay, but a step above Vass. I really like them. Now, from a finishing standpoint, they didn't do a lot of finishing, and there is some, you can tell that they machine stitch the sole. I think so, just based on the way that it's done here. There is some fudging. I mean, they do some nice finish work, and of course, this fiddleback is really well done. Now, take a look at the heel here. That is what they consider a standard heel, and I want you to compare that to this, which is what they call a tapered heel. All right. Now, this is also an October 10th, but this is an Adelaide, a wingtip Adelaide, as a matter of fact. But they're on the same last. So if you look at the two shoes, they are the same shape, but two very different styles. Okay? And this is in a cognac calf, and they burnished this, and in my opinion, they burnished it a little bit on the dark side. But this is ink. This isn't just polish. So I'm working my way into building a polish layer up to soften it a bit. Again, it's you've got some nice fudging. They did the toe plate on this too. It's not perfectly smooth here. You can feel it. So that doesn't bother me now, but it might bother me as the sole wears down. So I have to see how that goes. From a overall construction on this, it's really quite nice. The one thing I'm not a fan of is that heel, and you know, it looks just like a cowboy boot and kind of feels like one as well. And really, if you measure it and you look at the difference this way, it's not a huge difference. It's just a slight difference that just really catches the eye as being, whoa, that's different in my mind. Now, why do I bring up these details, right? Tier 2 is very similar to Tier 1. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of quality. There's a lot of feature. There's a lot of things that they do extraordinarily well. And there's not a lot that you're going to look at and you're going to say, oh, you know, that's garbage, or I don't like that. That doesn't make sense. When it comes down to the quality of the linings, the quality of the counters, the quality of the cutting, the clicking, the quality of the innards, right, the shanks and so forth, the insoles, these are going to be pretty darn good. Now, they do use some things that I think are different, okay, from my perspective. Their insoles are soft. This one was just a little bit on the big side, so they said, oh, you know what, don't size down, we'll give you a thicker insole. And I can't tell. It's so soft. I wonder if they just put in a softer, thicker insole and my foot just sinks into it. So there's some possibilities there, some things that may or may not be, you know, just right. But it's a young brand. You know, they're coming along, and you know, I'm excited to try them again. I'll probably wait a year or two, but you know, they've got some really great shoes. The next shoes that are coming, the Yosols, will be a split-toed derby in a hatch grain. Now, the one thing about the October 10th collaboration with Sons of Henry is, you know, Tom Brown, who's the founder of Sons of Henry, is very, very much into quality leather. And he was able to source Utah calf and hatch grain leather for October 10th in order to be able to do their shoes and their collaboration. And Utah calf is very hard to find. Okay? Outside of Edward Green, I don't see it a lot. I found a pair of Sons of Henry, and I found a pair of Lufthung, but it's not, outside of that, it's usually Edward Green, right? So the fact that they have that and that they can do really, really interesting designs, like a wingtip Adelaide on a really cool chisel last in a Utah calf, is kind of exciting. So when I start off and I look at a brand, you know, I try to do things in a methodical way. Now, you may or may not agree with this, but this is kind of the way my brain thinks, so I'm just going to explain it to you. The first one I wanted to get something that was fit into my collection. Okay? I have a large number of Adelaides, so I wanted to make sure that it fit into the collection. They didn't have like a regular cap-toe Adelaide that I was really a fan on, so I wanted to go with something different, and so I went with this wingtip Adelaide. I got it without a medallion because I wanted to be able to put a higher shine on it. And I thought that that would be a lot of fun. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to do something. I'm going to try a color that I don't have in my collection at all. And I went with this cognac calf. Now this is a French calf. It's very nice. This is a color that's very different. I have a pair of cognac shell long wings now that I got from Meermin. And this is a darker cognac, which of course, I mean, it's calf versus shell. There's always going to be a difference. But as I'm getting used to this is a very, very versatile color, and I'm really glad that I got it. Now, of course, when you buy a color that you don't have, then you've got to go to Saphir, and you got to get new cream, you got to get new wax. There's a whole big process, if you're into shoes like I am, that you have to go through when you do that. And so this required a little bit of extra investment. Now, when I went to my second shoe with them, I wanted to, I wanted to address the fit issue, which I told you about, and then I wanted to do something really, really different. And I thought maybe I should do something like a mix between suede and leather. Maybe I do something where it's like a Utah calf, but I wanted to get Utah calf in a light color because I only have a dark color, and they didn't have any of that. It was going to be a long wait, so I wound up going with this with the brown and the suede. I was originally going to do hatch grain and the suede, and they talked me out of it. Or Tom talked me out of it. So really wound up really great. And when you get into, I'm looking for a pie crust apron where I can see the stitching, and I want to mix materials that you've never mixed before. Shoemakers get pretty excited about it because it's a different kind of shoe for them. And so, I got a lot of support from them. I got a lot of support from Tom. And just a really cool example. So that's kind of my thinking as I go through that. As you look at the shoes coming from China, the Chinese makers are pretty communicative. You reach out to them on Instagram and you ask questions. They did a good job. They did a great job keeping Tom informed, and Tom was able to send me pictures of the shoe in process, which is unheard of. No other maker has ever done that for me. So that's been really, really great, and just a joy to work with. Now they did take a long time, longer than I ever expected, but and I did have to hound them a little bit to say, hey, where are the shoes? Which is unfortunate, but if you just take their estimate of time and you double it, you won't be disappointed, right? So and listen, I mean, these are artisans. They're busy and they've got a lot of shoes to do, and if they rush the shoes come out bad, so you don't want them to rush. Okay? So it's just the way it is. So so that is the October 10th and the shoes made in China. So now we're going to talk about a shoe made in Hungary, and this gets back to Laszlo Vass. Okay? Now, Vass makes really, really great hand-welted shoes, and it's not just the shoe that you get. You get a lasted shoe tree, and early on in my videos, if you go back into my archives, you'll see that I did some comparisons of different shoe trees, and this is a really, really cool shoe tree. You can feel how this was carved by hand. Right? It's not perfectly smooth, but it doesn't give you splinters. It absorbs the moisture really, really well. And when you put it together, it is the exact size of the shoe. Right? So when you you put it in, it's a super tight fit. And when I mean super tight, I mean there's no give anywhere on the shoe. Pretty exciting stuff. Now this shoe used to be a mid-brown, and I had a patina done on it, so that's my fault on the color. And of course the polish is part of the patina, and I've got to refresh some of that. But it's a it's a beautiful shoe. The craftsmanship is just great. They did JR soles. I actually the artist actually did some work on the soles, so you can't really see the JR mark very well, although it is there. Kind of see the shadow of it. If you look at the nails, they've got the just patterns of nails, patterns of 3 throughout the sole. Right? And then there is a line that you can see all the way around. Now, this is a closed channel sole. Right? So imagine you've got a cobbler. He's working in the workshop, and he goes to do the sewing. Okay? Vass is really well known because they don't use machines, right? Not at all. So where the stitching and so forth on the sole stitch, on St. Crispin's on October 10th and stuff, is done on a machine. This is all done by hand. So you've got a guy who's sitting there who's pushing an awl through the weld, carves a groove into the sole, pushes the awl through the sole, and he's able to pull the stitches in and then does it. Now when he finishes the whole shoe, then he actually hammers down the groove so that it is then smooth again. Now I learned about this in this great book, and it's actually by Laszlo Vass on handmade shoes for men. And I want you to see here, that's how the guy is actually sewing, okay, by hand, pulling with that much tension in order to be able to do the sole stitching. And then there's all kinds of different pieces in order to finish it and to make it smooth, right? So all of that work is just something that is done extra. Now sometimes they'll do a blind stitch where they actually roll it back and then they sew it in there and then they roll it back and glue it on. This time they actually hammered it in. And most of my Vasses have the hammered sole, so for what it's worth. So anyway, that is, Vass really is the epitome of hand welted. I feel like the quality of this is just absolutely tremendous. Everything from the shoe tree to the shoe itself. It's steeped in the tradition of shoemaking that really comes out of Budapest. A lot of the really big brands have their factories in Budapest. Heinrich Dinklager does, Vass does, as well as a number of other brands that as you get into shoes you start to see more and more. Most of them are doing this handmade shoes, and of course there's also still a lot of bespoke shoemaking in the area. So some cool ideas. If you're looking to buy a pair of Vass, check out, especially during the pandemic while it's still going on, check out Vass-shoes or Vass-shoes.com. They have a lot of sales going on, and you can get some pretty good deals. So support the shoemakers. Obviously they're struggling just like the rest of us. Made in England. Well, if there's one thing England does not have a shortage of, it's Tier 2 shoes. This is my collection. As we look at some of the brands and some of the shoes that are going to come through here, there's a number of different stories. These are historical shoe manufacturers, many of them with roots back into the 1800s. And when I did my History of English Shoes video, there's a lot of information on them back there. But for the purpose of this, I really want to talk about what makes them Tier 2. And what are the things about it that just really provide that level of quality, right? So we're going to start with what I consider to be one of the top of the heaps, and this is George Cleverly Adam. Okay, now George Cleverly Adams, George Cleverly shoes in general on their ready-to-wear line are going to run anywhere from I think it's $640 to about $950. Right? For some of the higher ones, I've seen them as high as 750 pounds. you know, most of them are right at the you know, $700 to $750 mark, and I think that that's important, right? Because as we're looking at this range, around 850 is the cutoff, and you know, you're going to see some shoes where, depending on the exchange rate, depending on where you buy them, you know, they could kind of go either way on that line, okay? And the English shoes are some of the ones that are going to be there, and that's true both at the $850 mark and at the $500 mark, where you're going to be able to get some that are significantly less expensive, and I'll walk through that. So, but this is the Cleverly Atom. It's a very well-made shoe. You know, I did a shoe battle between this and the Alfred Sargent more, and one of the things that I looked at in there was whether or not it looks like it's made by Alfred Sargent. I will tell you, it looks very much like the last on the Alfred Sargent, although the sole is absolutely next level. And it may be reminiscent of the Alfred Sargent hand grades, which you know, don't appear to be available anymore. But super beautiful. This one happens to be in a like a pin grain, and just a great example. It has very intricate detail work, right? The finishing on it. This has no fudging, but outside of fudging, everything else that you could ask for. I mean, it has 2 rows of nails on the toe. The grooves that are cut in the sole are just absolutely beautiful. The quality of the leather, the quality of the lining, just the overall, you know, the stitch density on this is also, you know, just absolutely next level. So just a beautiful shoe, and really right in between your typical tier 2 shoes and your tier 1 shoes like a Gaziano and Girling. Is really right at that edge, and so just beautiful. Now there are some things that they don't do. The clicking, you know, they don't decide to have one piece on the heel, and you know, there's all kinds of some things that they'll do better on some shoes than others. But for this particular shoe, I feel like the quality is very high. The comfort, the style, you know, the design, the look, are outstanding. And so clearly a tier 2. You know, not a tier 3, and spoiler alert, Allen Edmonds, which is another American shoe outside the Alden, which is in tier 2, is not in tier 2, and that would be in tier 3. So so that is your George Cleverly. Now we move on from George Cleverly to Crockett and Jones. And the first shoe that we're going to look at in Crockett and Jones is this Lanark 3. This is a plain toe blucher, and like all plain toe bluchers, it is absolutely classic. It does not have a seam in the back. It has a patch. Some of them have just a single seam. And this has, you know, this beautiful inward seam. Some of them actually have a layered seam there as well on the blucher piece. But you know, I've commented before on this shoe that this has one of the softest linings of any shoe that I ever had. And, you know, for being a dark brown shoe, this is incredibly non-boring. I mean, it's plain, it's unadorned, and it's just a great shoe. It's a great shoe to wear, great shoe to look at. So really happy with it. So Lanark 3 plain toe blucher from Crockett and Jones. As we're looking at Crockett and Jones is really well known for their dress shoes, your classic European dress shoe. This is the 348 last, which is one of the ones that is really in vogue right now. They use it for a lot of shoes. I think it's their most popular last. And this is the Westbourne, which is a classic Adelaide. Just a lovely way to do it. This shoe was actually featured in the shoes book here as well, which for a tier 2 shoe, you know, I think that's pretty telling. There's a lot of tier 1 shoes in there. So that's a classic thing. Now, another shoe that was featured in there is the Weymouth. Now, this is in the hand grade line. Now, the hand grade line, you know, crosses the $1,000 mark on a lot of shoes, and you can occasionally get some, you know, where it's a good deal. These were discontinued, so I was able to get them a little bit less, but they are very well put together. Instead of like their main line, which has open channel, they have closed channel soles, and they have everything else is just a step above. You know, the calf that they use is upgraded. The insides are upgraded, and of course the soles are upgraded. So that's a you know, overall it's just a very classic, very well put together shoe, and I love these. The Weymouth is my only black shoe, and you know, I chose a hole cut for it and a medallion, so I have a little bit of me in my formal shoe. Now, my next brand that we're going to look at is another, you know, very traditional brand. And what's interesting about these is that they're not all priced to be in Tier 2. Some of them are priced in Tier 2, and some of them are priced clearly in whatever Tier 3 becomes, because they're right on the line. But I included them here because of their quality, and because of the overall, you know, reputation of the brand. But mostly it's because the first shoe that I looked at, which is one of mine, when I look at it on certain sites, it is definitely in Tier 2. Now, one thing about buying shoes from the UK, if you find a shoe from the UK at a dealer site, okay, sometimes you can get a much better deal than you can going direct. Sometimes it's the other way around, right? This is a shoe, and I put the price up here. If you go directly to trickers.com and you're on their Rest of World site, you might see a little bit of a difference price. So it might be worth checking out, just to educate yourself and learn more about it. So these are blind stitched, very well put together. None of the, you know, basic details of the fiddleback, but it is blind stitched. It does have fudging. Overall, as Adelaide's go, it's just a very, very solid structure. And this color is part of what made Trickers famous. And it's great to see them put a classic men's English shoe in with their other country shoes. They call this a town shoe, which is basically your smart dress. Now, the other Trickers that I own is also a plain toe blue shirt, a PTB, and this is the Robert. This is unlined in this beautiful brown museum calf. Okay. Open channel, and just a very, very classic, solid shoe. What's interesting is that they say that this is the same, I mean, these are the same size. They say that the last is true to size, and I would say that the Belgrave, which is the Adelaide, is a little bit on the big side. So if you're looking at these, I would recommend taking your true to size on the Robert and taking one half size down on the Belgrave. Now, Loake is the brand that I talked about during the intro, where we have 7 ranges of shoes. And I decided to include their top range in Tier 2, while, you know, definitely the other 7 ranges are not in Tier 2. Some of them would be in Tier 1, and some of them would be in Tier 2, Tier 3, right? Excuse me, Tier 3, 4, maybe even 5, depending on how many I wind up with. They have a huge range in price, from maybe $125 all the way to $610. So these are both on the high-end side. They're part of the Loake 1880 export grade. This is the Trinity, which is their top range Adelaide. And really this is in the top range because of leather. The leather quality on this is absolutely superb. It does have what they call a fiddleback waist. I would call that a beveled waist. You know, it has the differentiated soles, and overall just a very classic, very well constructed shoe. When I did comparisons between this and many of the other shoes, the stitch densities were higher, and just overall it's a very comfortable shoe. This is one of the first shoes that I owned that passed the 20-hour test, meaning that I can wear it for 20 hours and my feet don't hurt. So I think that that's classic. Now this is a round last for them, okay, and they call this the Tower Last. Now they have a hole cut. And I happen to have this in navy, which is, this is my only navy, outside of suede. This is the River Last. And if you look at this has your classic rise. It has your flat, your toe shape, very much like the Adelaides that I have in my collection that I really like. But this is on a hole cut. And if you look at this hole cut compared to the Crockett and Jones, you'll see they have some similarities. But this is a little bit of a sharper hole cut, and this is more of a rounded hole cut. They both have chisel lasts, but there's just a difference in the design of the shoe, which is always interesting when you're looking at hole cuts because you know, they're just plain. But again, the construction quality on this is just absolutely superb. I used to have a pair of navy Loake 1880s, not the export grade, not the legacy grade, and this shoe, the leather on this absolutely kicked the other leather's butt. It was night and day. There's so much color variation in this, and there's so much softness that's just imbued in this, and the way that it feels is 100 times better. So they really did a good job with this range of upgrading the leather, upgrading the components, the shank, all of it, and really providing some very, very comfortable shoes. And you can get these on sale for great prices, but the list price in American dollars is $610 and $565, I think. So they're firmly in the tier 2, you know, the shoes are great. They don't have the blind stitch. They don't have, you know, a really dark, deep fiddle back like some of the others, but some just really, really quite nice. Now the next shoe that I'm going to talk about is the Alfred Sargent Moore, another classic Adelaide. This was in cherry red. They have you know, the stitch density on this and the soles are very, very high. The quality of the leather on this is very, very high. A lot of people will compare this to I actually read a nice article on Styleforum today comparing this to the Gaziano and Girling St. James 2. And I did a shoe battle between them, which you're welcome to watch. But, you know, when push comes to shove, this checks a lot of boxes in men's shoes. And for running around, I think it's $690 US, probably with that, so you can probably find it a little bit less. It's just a remarkable shoe, and you know, nice soles, nice waists, just great components, a very well made shoe. Now, Alfred Sargent also makes suede. And has a lot of other shoes that are part of that exclusive range. This is a Herrick, okay? So you're just plain classic cap-toe Oxford. This is actually an Alfred Sargent shoe tree, which I bought from a different dealer, but they really come out. They're very nice. Unlike some of the other shoe trees, where like the Loake trees and the Church's trees, which I'll get to in a minute, are identical. And I could talk about trees all day long, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but the Alfred Sargents are pretty nice. The details on this are just remarkable. I've done shoe battles with this against some of the higher end shoes as well, and this just, it really, I mean, it plays to win. I gotta say, it's you know, the details that they bring in making this shoe, and really building it out, the linings, the insoles, the everything, just super sturdy, super soft, and they just do a nice job with it. So the last brand we're going to look at is Church's, another brand that has its history down to the turn of the century, and not this century, the last century. You know, they do a really good job. Many people will say that Church's are higher level than Crockett and Jones. I'm not sure that I'm quite in agreement with that, but they do make nice shoes. You know, this is the Church's Portmore. I've only seen this at Harrods. I've never seen it anywhere else. So it may be an exclusive for them, but it is a long wing blucher. And, you know, my first long wing from a British maker. And, you know, just a really classic one. And then I also have a plain toe blucher, which is in navy suede, okay? Because you gotta have a blue suede shoe. And they got some nice branded soles, but you know, really, again, it's a classic shoe. This is unlined as well, and just has a really solid shape to it and a really great feel when you wear it. Just really great construction. So, and these are going to run anywhere from 500 to 650 bucks in the Church's range. Again, for their standard shoes, they do have you know, exotic materials and different things that they have as well that start going up in price significantly. So that is made in England. Welcome back. So today we're going to look at shoes that are made in Italy. And so I've got a few pairs here, and here, I'll turn them around so you can see them, because I know you don't really care about seeing me. I have 4 brands represented. One brand I actually have a full collection of already. I'm trying to collect 3 shoes from 40 brands, and so this particular brand is already done. I've got some shoe trees to go in order to get it all set, and that's these. That's the Enzo Benafe. This is a Barbarella, Bruno Mali, and this is a it's a Y by Yosol, but these shoes are made by Antonio Macariello, so that I'm going to talk about them as it relates to his shoes, as it relates to made in Italy. So, tier 2. Again, these are between $500 and $850. List price. There is some variance, and obviously exchange rates plays a big role in these because of where they're from. So starting with the Barbinera. I can actually look at it, and no, I can't say it because it's in Italian. I have no idea what it says. So, but this is an Adelaide. This is in kudu. And what I like about this is that the lining is really, really well made. The actual uppers are constructed very well, and the sole is a beautiful hand-grade sole. They've got nails in the toe. It's a really, really classic, well-done example. You know, you can also get them on a pretty decent sale, so that you've got some nice stuff there. Now, moving on from that, the next shoe we're going to talk about are the Enzo Benafe. So this is the one with the right tree. Now Enzo makes really, really good shoes. Like Vass, these are 100% handmade. They hand welt, they hand sew, they do the sole stitching, everything. And the level of finishing on this, I think is even nicer than Vass personally. The fudging is such that you can't really see the stitching in the top of the sole. They really do just a fine job all across. Now, I have a pair of these with the leather soles. I actually have 2 that have the leather sole. You can see that they're the same. Okay, these have a toe plate in them. But then I have this pair, which has the rubber soles. Okay, what's interesting is the stitching only comes down to here because they are a 270 welt. What's also interesting is that the fudging on the outside is every bit as intricate. You know, it's hard to remember this, or at least for me, because I'm a little bit of a funny guy that way. But hand welted has nothing to do with the leather soles. Hand welted has to do with the part that they do before they add the sole. And so, you know, the quality of these is absolutely top rate, and just they do a phenomenal job with it. And these are your classic single soles, and they really do a nice job. The details on all of it is just really, really well done, and somebody spent a lot of time doing it. Now, they don't do the bevel on the waist here, so it is all ironed, and then they have the groove on the top, on the edge there. But everything else, the stitch density up at the top, the work that they do here with hatch grain is just absolutely miraculous. The pattern in this split toe is nearly identical to my St. Crispin's, and they do a very, very nice job. So, you know, no complaints. Now, is the heel counter quite as tight against my ankles and so forth? No, but it's still very, very, very well made. You know, this is a $580, $600 shoe versus, you know, St. Crispin's, which you're looking, you know, 1,200 euros. For those out the door. So I mean, this is a really good value, okay, if you're looking for something with very, very high-end construction materials and not the very high-end price. Now, I want to talk about that for a second because somebody posted on my on the channel today a question. Well, you know, where can I get a shoe that has the same quality as an Edward Green, but a much more reasonable, affordable price? Well, you're not going to find that, right? I mean, it would be disrespectful to all of the craftsmen who make Edward Greens to be able to say, oh, you're going to be able to go find something for half the price. You know, you can buy a used Edward Green. You can get a good deal on an Edward Green a lot of different places. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to say, oh, well, these shoes are just as good. because they're not, right? They're different. Now, I will say that a hand-welted shoe from Enzo is going to have very, very high quality. It's going to have different priorities than what they do at Edward Green. The quality of the top of the upper leather, okay, the quality of the lining may not be as high, but it's still very, very good. Right? So meaning that it is, I believe, you know, a top grade of the full grain leather. And then the question is, are they cutting as many pieces out of it? How are they doing it? You know, I've seen commentary that, you know, what they'll do is they'll take one pair like of hand grade shoes of you know, one of the high end tier 1 shoes out of a skin of leather, and then they'll make a bunch of next grade shoes with the rest of the skin. Okay? And that's kind of the image that I want you to have on this. The really, really big tier 1 stuff, they're just much more selective in the leather choices that they make, but that doesn't mean it's from a different skin of leather, and it doesn't mean that these shoes are made with bad leather, because they're not. These are very, very well made, well put together shoes. Now this pair is in Yoko calf, which is a little different. This is smooth, the other two are in a hatch grain, and this has a custom patina that I had put on it by an artist who's on Instagram under Mr. Renworks, and he did a fantastic job. He did the toe plates for me as well, and just a beautiful shoe. Just the lines on the shoe are probably some of the best hole cuts that I own, and just really, really exciting. Now, the next shoe that I'm going to talk about is the Bruno Magli. Now what's interesting is that the pattern on this and the pattern on this are the same, right? You can see that they're made roughly the same. They have the seam in the same place on the second top line, and it's a good pattern. Now the stitching on this is different, right? This has a machine done Norwegian welt, which a lot of people say is not really a Norwegian welt, is actually a Goodyear welt. But I can't tell. It looks more like a Norwegian stitch with a welt to me. But, you know, and, you know, a lot of people say, well, if it's Norwegian welt, then it has to be Norwegian welt. No, it doesn't. There's like 8 different types of Norwegian welts. So it's hard to know for sure. But I can tell you that this welt line is very, very well done. The stitching into the sole is very well done. They actually have a second color that they use on the bottom of the sole. And these soles are just absolutely classic. They are called Lactae, Lactae Havoc. And what's interesting about this is that, like, you can't get these in the Carmina made to order if you buy the shoes in Europe, but you can't get it in the US. So I know some folks who've actually gone to Carmina and gotten them put onto their shoes because they're just really, really cool soles. And they're super spongy, which I like. I think that's fun. So now, if you talk about the upper leather on these Bruno Maglis, this is the Camino, by the way. I don't think this leather is especially high quality. I think this is corrected grain with that little plastic sheer over thing on it. Now, when I got it, it had all this burnishing, and it was very, very pretty. But here is an example in my mind of a shoe that's got a north of $500 price tag, where I'm not really sure I would buy this again. Okay? This is my only pair of Bruno Magli, and while the construction is very nice and the style is quite nice, I'm just not impressed with the upper. Okay? So that's my opinion, but that's where you go. But it's a good example of a shoe. Now, here on the Antonio, this is a totally different thing, right? This is one where I would say that the construction quality of this, and this is it's an Argentum line shoe, which is kind of like their medium line. It does not say hand welted on it anywhere, and I don't see any signs in the shoe itself that it's hand welted. Sometimes when they're hand welted, there is you can see some kind of bunching on the inside of the insole, and I don't see any of that here. But it is a very, very well constructed shoe. And if I were doing my shoes based on quality instead of price, and I was doing the full categorization that way, this is a shoe that would be in tier 1. The leather quality is absolutely out of this world. I'm really, really very fond of it. And the hole cut shape. This is the Hawksbill last. I like a lot. This has a double sole, and then it's carved down to a single sole at the waist. I really like that. And it has a single seam in the back, you know, so no patchwork here. The heel counters are just absolutely perfect. And the feel of the shoe is just absolutely perfect. Has nails in the toe for holding wear. Now, this also has something that I've never seen before in another shoe. The waist is actually narrower than the heel and has like a little indentation there. And I have looked at pictures and scoured Instagram and tried to find another shoe that does that. And the only ones I've seen are from Antonio. So really, really exciting. I'm a super fan of his shoes, and I'm planning on buying more. I just haven't yet. So this is Italy. Hope you found it helpful. So welcome back. So today we are here to talk about shoes made in Spain. And in the Tier 2 bracket, and you look at where the Tier 2 start at $500, there's very few made in Spain shoes that would really fit in that market. There is a brand called Meermin which is probably on the high side of Tier 2 and into Tier 1. And unfortunately, I don't own any of those. But there is a brand that is just probably due to a price increase this year over the $500 mark, and that is Carmina. And so in my preparation for this, the shoes are right around $527. And when I bought them, I think they were around $450, $425. And you know, we have varying exchange rates, right? So things just shift naturally. You know, they've continued to go up, which is fine. I mean, I don't have a problem with people increasing their prices. If I did, I'd be out of business. So, but as I look at it, you know, this is a really good example of a shoe brand that you have to look at and say, well, wait a second, whoa, why is this in Tier 2? You know, with the likes of like an Enzo Benafe and stuff like that. We're shoes that have been firmly in the 550 plus market for quite a while. And I think that's part of why. But then when you start looking at the quality that is made up of Carmina, that's when you start looking at it and saying, well, you know, this does make a lot of sense. The other side is, for me, I mean, you know, these three shoes, actually these four shoes, this one, this one, this one, this one, are not stock shoes, right? They are customized in one way or another. Now this pair of Oxfords, this is actually a pair that I got through Massdrop, great, which is now called Drop. But this is not normally available on this last. This is this shoe is normally on the Simpson last on the Carmina website, but this is on the Rain last. Right, it has JR soles. Also had special shoe trees that are on the Rain last, and these boots I had made on the Rain last, and they're normally on the Forest last. And I actually put the Rain last trees into these boots because I feel like the suede needs them a little bit more, so I went with that, and I just have standard trees here. This shoe, normally it comes in like black and regular leather. I had a Vitello leather put on the cap, the heel, and the facing, and then I had a llama calf, tumbled calf, put on the vamp. So that's very different. It has a lot of texture in it. I also elected to have JR soles put on, you know, Carmina blind stitches the leather soles, as you can see on these. They do a really, really nice job with it. You know, one of the challenges that I have, and Carmina is a great company with a lot of interactive things, right? So on Instagram, it's not uncommon to see Shoe Shine Wednesdays or things like that, where Shoe Shine Sunday, where Carmina is running contests on Instagram. Hey, you know, we want to repost your Instagram stuff. If you post it to us, then we'll repost it. And I've been fortunate enough where most of these shoes have been reposted at one point or another. But I feel like I have a hard time polishing in order to show like really, really good shoe polish, because this is the only shoe that uses traditional polish. Now these, you know, which are relatively new, have the cap and the heels, so I can do a nice job with those. But the tumbled leather it's a little different, right? Now this is an interesting pair. This is part of a GMTO that they did, and I missed it. I missed the deadline. And I was watching these. This is the 532, which is their long wing. And if you haven't checked out the Oscar Last and long wings at Carmina, you really should. They're really well fitting shoes, and I like the way they are. And this is in a natural CXL. Which is really nice, and I've never seen it before. I mean, since then, I mean, it's kind of become in vogue, and you've seen it at Meermin on MTOs and a bunch of different brands. But this is another example. When you start looking at these shoes in a MTO scenario, you take the $529 and you add 30%. You're right in the middle at tier 2, right? And the question really comes down: are they worth it, right? They do have really nice fudging. They have the beautiful soles. They've got very nice nails. I have never seen a fiddleback, okay? Just full transparency, no fiddleback waists. You can get the Carmina Day Night, which is not a Day Night, okay? It's actually a Carmina make of a Day Night like sole, so it's got the nub soles, I guess is what they would call it. This is the Ishton Commando sole, and you look at like my Aldens that we talked about earlier as a tier 2 shoe. That Commando sole was like little nubs, almost like the nub sole, but in a Commando shape. This is a legit Commando sole. Now, it doesn't go all the way to the outside, and I think they do that for style so that it looks like it's more of a dress shoe from the outside, but you have the great traction on it. But these things, they wear like a tank. If I'm in foul weather and I'm wearing jeans and I want to be able to get and walk the dogs or go shopping or do something where I know that my shoes are going to get completely messed up, I wear these. And they, the CXL, which it wears like a tank anyway. With these soles, I'm in really great shape. Now, this is another example of a different sole. They call this a Tomir sole, and this is basically like a half sole, half rubber, but it's actually integrated in, so it's done, it's kind of like, Alden Edmonds did this, and they called it like a V-tread. So it's got a little bit of a pattern on this just for traction, and you get the benefit of having rubber and leather. And of course, this is just a rubber top sole, but it isn't like a toppy that's glued on. It's actually integrated in, and it wears pretty well. And then obviously this is, again, like the other, it's just a straight leather sole. So, but the finishing is good. The fudging doesn't go over the stitches. It's not, it's not completely blind. All of the work in the shoe is actually pretty good. Now, here's another interesting thing. When you look at the brogue, okay, the broguing along here, they do a nice job with your typical brogue boxes. And what do I mean by brogue boxes? It's like 2 little dots, the big dot, and then 2 little dots next to it. It kind of looks like a box pattern. Okay, it's not drawn like a box pattern, but it's just a pattern in the shoe. Well, one of the things that you notice when you look at these carefully is the shoe has another size brogue hole, and this pattern here is done in a very small brogue hole. Not the very small that's like in the 2 and above, but a completely third size. That is a pretty uncommon detail that you don't usually see in like a tier 3 shoe, okay? So that's another reason why this would really be firmly in the tier 2. Now, Carmina quality, I've been very, very impressed with the quality. Even the quality of the trees is really, really good. So nothing there. If you look at their old trees, which here's an old tree, this is on the Oscar Last, and this is one of the new ones. They're really they're doing a great job bringing up. This is cedar, this is beechwood, but either way, very, very pleased with these overall. So this is Spain. Hopefully it's helpful to see some of the details and some of the work that they do. It is also important to note, like the split toes are all hand sewn, and I would be absolutely remiss. I know I'm not talking about exotic leathers or anything, but if you're into exotic leathers, Carmina is a brand that has shell cordovan in abundance, right? You can get almost any color, and you can get it in a lot of varieties of shoes. When you go into one of their shops, they have a whole shelf. Like if they have the 4 shelves of shoes, one whole shelf is just all shell cordovan, okay? You can get crocodile, you can get alligator, you can get caiman, you can get ostrich. There's just a lot of options in exotics available from Carmina. So they really do have a wide variety of styles, lasts, and leathers. And you know, for a shoe company that's really on the cusp of being one of the big brands, okay, where I view like a Trickers or a Loake or as big brand, Crockett and Jones, big brand, right? Carmina is right between like a medium size and a big brand. You know, where I had said before, Alden is kind of on a small brand. Enzo Bonafe is a small brand. You know, they're kind of niche kind of shoes, and that's kind of the way I think about Carmina, is that they're really focused on being a big global player, and you know, they're really doing a good job on building a good quality line of shoes. So that is our Tier 2 collection. I know the video is probably longer than you wanted, and I apologize if I seem like I rambled on. I tried to impart some nuggets of information. Hopefully you found some good ones. I really look forward to your comments. If you have something to say, let me know, and we'll try to respond to all of them in a timely manner. Sometimes they do get behind, and as I'm going through, like in a week or something like that, I'll notice and I'll respond then. So if I don't respond, let me know. Also, feel free to reach out to me at wishoeguy@gmail.com. If I'm not responsive on the web, I certainly will try to respond there. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.